if I told you the subject of today's video, you would probably go watch something else. But let me start by saying that with a little investment, you could save up to 30 watts while riding 45 kilometers per hour, and that would translate into 9 minutes in full Ironman distance bike leg. So the subject I'll be talking about is not very attractive. Everybody likes to talk more about wheels and expensive carbon components, but the things you put on the wheels can have larger impact than the wheels itself. I think I mentioned in the video where I went to England to do aerodynamic testing in wind tunnel. I mentioned that there are more free watts to gain, and this is what I was referring to. So by going from my previous setup, that was Continental Grand Prix 4000 with butyl tubes, that's a very good tire. Now I went to Continental Grand Prix 5000 tubeless. I saved 12 watts, and that's almost 4 minutes in full Ironman distance. So not a little improve, so that's a quite large improvement. You need to train all year very hard to gain 4 minutes. So the first part of today's video is about tubes. There are two main types of tubes. You all know about butyl tubes, normal tubes, but there are also latex tubes. And believe it or not, these latex tubes can save you up to between 5 and I think it was between 7 and 12 watts per wheel set, just by changing the tubes. But I can show you the research from AeroCoach website. Just a moment. So here is their research, and they tested various types of tubes together with Continental Grand Prix 5000 clincher tire in 25 millimeter width, and well, the results were interesting, so to say. So they had a couple of butyl tubes, and butyl tubes were needed around 34 watts per wheel set to overcome rolling resistance at 45 kilometers per hour. And the best latex tubes only needed 27 watts. So that's 7 watts difference just by changing the tubes. But it's not so straightforward. I rode latex tubes for a year and a half in 2015 and 2016, and in 2015 everything went very well. I had probably my best races in that year, but then at the end of the year, I got a flat at Naturman, and on a side note, always take your spare tubes with you, because I had my spare tube, but the rear holder, I went over a pothole and the rear holder broke, and I lost my spare gear, and 5 kilometers later I got a flat, and it took ages for this I think it's called broom bus, or I'm not sure about the English translation. So they have the bus that takes all the people who had a problem on the course, but it follows the last competitor, and it takes ages for the last competitor to go past you, and then then the bus drives behind him all the way to T1. So that was a very long day waiting out there in the field. And then later I went to Guadalupe and got a flat tire, but luckily I was just entering T2, so it didn't make any effect on the race. Then few weeks after that, at Ironman South Africa, I got it was kind of a slow leak, So in race morning, I decided to change the tube, and then again after a couple of months at Ironman Nice, I got another flat tire. So that's when I decided to go back to butyl tubes, because latex is more prone to flats, and it can also be it's also a little bit more sensitive to the heat. So if you are doing a race in the heat where there are long downhills, and when the rim of the wheel heats, the latex can explode inside. So that's why Continental claims that they don't produce latex tubes, and they claim that there is no latex tube that meets their minimum safety standard. For something in between, you have Continental Supersonic, and it tests at 30 watts, so it's 3 watts slower per wheel set than the latex tubes, but also 4 watts faster than the normal butyl tubes. And it's a butyl tube, but they make it lighter somehow. And the second part of the subject is the tires. There can be huge difference between tires in rolling resistance, and for example, the tire that I had, here is also a test from Aero Coach KO UK. I will link all the tests in the description below. And in their test, they tested various tires, and all of them were either with latex tubes, or if they are tubeless compatible, they also tested them as tubeless. And the thing is that there is quite a large gap. So you can see per wheel set, the difference between slowest tire and fastest tire is 16 watts. So that's a lot. And so for example, the tire that I used needed 33.7 watts to overcome rolling resistance at 45 kilometers per hour, and that's with latex tube. So in my setup, it was more likely about 40 watts. And the tire that I'm using now, Continental Grand Prix 5000 tubeless, 25 millimeters, 28.5. So that's, considering I used butyl tubes here, it's 12 watts difference. And I must say that this test, when I saw it, I already bought a Continental 5000s. And by the way, let me just say that the difference between tubeless and tire with latex tube is minimal. So in this example, with Continental Grand Prix 5000, it was actually, I cannot see it here, but maybe I saw it in a different place. Here it is, just below. So Continental 5000 with latex tube is 1 watt, 1.3 watts faster than Continental 5000 without tubeless. And after seeing this test, I must say that I'm tempted to buy Vittoria Corsa Speed, because that's another 7 watt difference. That would be 2 minutes in an Ironman race, but I don't have very good experiences with Vittorias from before. Each time I had Vittoria tire on, I got plenty of flats. So that's why I think this year, since there probably won't be many races, I will stick to Continental 5000s, and then maybe I will try Vittorias next year. And another site that can be useful is bicycle rolling resistance, where you have all these different tires tested, and actually here the difference between Conti 5000 and Vittoria Corsa is not so huge. Here it's just 1.3 watts, but that's per one wheel, so it's about 2.5 watts. So that's not much of a difference. And they also test puncture protection, and as you can see here, Conti Conti is a little bit more prone to the punctures than the rest of the tires in top 10. And here, as I mentioned before, you see, for example, the best tire only needs 7 watts to only loses 7 watts for rolling resistance, and the worst performing tire on their side needs 22 watts, 22.6 watts. So if you multiply that by 2 for 2 tires, that's 30 watts difference, and that's huge. So I think I said everything I wanted to say, and okay, that's another thing that you should pay attention to. It doesn't look like a big deal. Well, I thought for myself, I didn't really believe that, for example, latex tube can bring you that much difference, but obviously it can. And if you are afraid of latex tubes, then now tubeless technology is already kind of mainstream. It's tested. It's not something that's just coming in. It's been around for a couple of years in road cycling. So I would say it's quite safe to go tubeless these days. And well, that's it. Pay attention to a little details, because even if they seem to be little details, they can gain you a lot of time. That's it for today, and see you soon.